And in those days, when I started talking about climate change, people called me a watermelon. I was green on the outside, red on the inside. I was a communist disguised as an environmentalist.
Well, this little secret would have been nice to know before Canadians elected this watermelon. But sadly, I uncovered way darker secrets hidden by the Liberals, which I'll expose today.
While among Democrats themselves, the Democratic Socialists of America have a higher net favor rating than the Democratic Party does, at least those who are members of Congress. I mean, just take a look here. Dem Socialists of America, plus 17 points. Democrats in Congress, plus 4 points.
So the rise of socialism is not unique to Canada. The US is facing it too.
You know, a lot of us come from lands that were colonized, lands where wars are being waged, right? A lot of times because of US policy or the policies in Europe. And so I find that we can connect over that, but then also that the idea that we have to apologize for like a terror attack that like a couple of people did, and then there is no apologies or reparations for genocides and for slavery, etc., is something that I kind of find like reprehensible.
Yup, we have a major infiltration problem from people who dislike our way of life. And this New York State Senate primary winner just told the entire world what they truly believe. My name is Daniel, and this is The Right Call. Like, share, subscribe, hype this video up. Any interaction on this channel helps push the truth out, and maybe someday help break that CBC-induced coma that so many Canadians are under. And if you haven't already, smash that subscribe button, because if you like the truth, you found the right place. Why do Liberals always have to do the cringiest things?
Guard. Attention! Present arms!
Carney, I know you really admire Sir Isaac Brock. You carried his little figurine with you at all times. And again, that's not creepy at all. But don't try to emulate him. He actually served. You didn't. And I doubt he would approve. So the second the recession was announced a few weeks ago, the very second, I said very publicly that they would start opening up the floodgates of immigration because they need to prop up the economy. Oh well.
We are in a nation-building era, and immigration will be central to that work.
Wait, don't we already have a nation? And didn't immigration actually undermine our nation? I don't think this is how we're going to be building it further. By the way, immigration, selective immigration, well-done immigration, super great. But I have zero faith, zero belief that the Liberals will be able to manage it because, hey, they've had 10 years. And how well did that go?
Our approach to immigration must be balanced and well-managed. It has to complement our domestic workforce, not replace it, while attracting and keeping the best talent from around the world.
Again, sadly, the right words guarantee you the execution will be off.
We will prioritize provincial and territorial needs. We will respect their role and continue our targeted efforts to support small and rural communities. We know our economic immigration programs and services can be improved to better support national, regional, and local economic needs with less duplication and fewer delays. We will strengthen our programs and coordinate our efforts to improve settlement and integration outcomes.
Oh God, so after completely changing the makeup of our largest cities, Toronto, Montreal, Vancouver, Calgary, Edmonton, you name it, now the Liberals are coming for our rural towns. The places where the cost of living is still reasonable, where housing prices are still somewhat accessible, where crime levels are still somewhat low, and where our culture is still, well, respected in our culture. But you shall have none of that. You will be thrown to the melting pot come hell or high water.
All aboard the government bonus train. The feds handed out $2.8 million in bonuses for its high-speed rail project, even though they haven't laid a single meter of track. They don't even know the exact route for their train. So Alto is the government's crown corporation tasked with overseeing this high-speed rail boondoggle. Every Alto executive took a bonus. The average bonus for each Alto executive was $68,500, a $68,000 bonus. No track, no route, no problem. Here's your taxpayer-funded bonus.
How can you get a bonus without having accomplished anything? Isn't a bonus supposed to be performance-based? Isn't it supposed to be a reward for getting the job done, doing something good above and beyond your stated duties? But leave it to the government to reward mediocrity and to give bonuses to the elites even when they accomplish squat nothing. But nothing is worse than government ideologues ramming their ideology down our throats. This is not the motion for the throat, but whatever. Even though their ideologies are being completely rejected by the market, the world, and everyone.
Ask about what is an increasing amount of industry pushback to part of the MOU that your government signed with Alberta, and that is in particular around the Pathways carbon capture project, right? Mr. McKenzie, the CEO of Cenovus, gave a speech just this month basically saying, you know, financing that and the pipeline isn't doable, unfinanceable was the word that he used. Your government is already providing very significant tax credits for carbon capture. Are you willing to put more federal money to make sure that Pathways is realized?
So I would say that there are very productive conversations going on as we speak
Oh my God, watch this word salad.
Between the federal government, between the government of Alberta and the Pathways Alliance. We are working hard to get to a framework. That framework involves some support from the federal government, it involves some support from the Alberta government. And it involves some financial commitments by the Pathways Alliance.
Always financial commitments from the governments. Bailouts, basically. Money from you and me.
We've done the work. We think it's eminently financeable. And I'm not going to get in the middle of discussions, but I think you'll hear some good news in the not too distant future.
No, Tim. Carbon capture is not financeable. No, it doesn't give an edge to the industry. There is no competitive country or corporation that implements it. It is not a viable business model. But don't take it from me. Take it from a leading expert, say John McKenzie, the CEO of Cenovus, you know, Canada's third largest oil and natural gas producer and a massive integrated company with a market cap of over $60 billion. Well, here's what he had to say.
We are the only country among the 10 largest producers globally that has a carbon tax. And the carbon tax for our industry is nothing more than a cost. It doesn't incent us to decarbonize. It is solely a cost of doing business. So when you think about what we intended to do with the carbon taxes, it really works when it's globally applied, and that can be passed on to the consumer. The consumer sees the higher cost of the product that they're consuming, and they consume less of it, and you get the price signal going back to the producer who produces less. What we've done is we put a carbon tax on in Canada that is solely born in Canada, and we compete in a global market. So the products that we sell get a global price, so we're not able to pass that along to the consumers. So there's a breakage of the linkage in terms of what the policy was intended to do and what it actually does. So it's simply a cost of doing business that has to be incorporated into any investment decision. But we have that, plus we have the tanker ban, plus we have clean electricity regulations, plus we have methane regulations, and all of this is just combined to make an incredibly complicated policy framework that makes investments in Canada difficult and non-competitive with other countries like the US and countries in Asia.
On the altar of ideologies that are failing, we are metaphorically, but also quite literally castrating our economy. You want to know why Canada is suffering compared to the US and compared to so many other prosperous nations? It's not the lack of natural resources. It's not the lack of markets. It's not the lack of skilled labor and intelligence and the ability to generate revenue. It's only due to one thing: government red tape, compliance, regulations, and silly policies like being carbon neutral with our oil, where no other country does this, and we are competing on a global stage. Money is not going to flow to Canada. It hasn't flowed to Canada. It doesn't flow to Canada. And it's that simple. If we were just to cut all these regulations and do as the US does, our southern neighbor, or Norway does, and they're pretty green, we'd still be able to hit the goals that we set ourselves, which don't even get me started. I don't think that's even warranted. But anyways, because, Canada produces less than 2% of the world's, carbon emission. And yet, we're not going to save the world. I digress. We're going to unleash our economy. People would thrive. We would have a rise in the birth rate. We would not need mass migration anymore. We could solve Canada overnight, but we're driven and led by ideologues who have no idea what they are doing. And this is what I mean by people that have no idea what they're doing. Our Minister of Energy and Natural Resources, what's his background? You think he worked in the field? You think he's a scientist, perhaps? You know what? He's an educated dude. But, he got a bachelor in nursing from the University of Manitoba. Then he worked in the Royal Canadian Air Force. Finally, he went to go get a Bachelor of Commerce, and he ended up working as a chartered accountant for PricewaterhouseCoopers. Later on, he got his MBA, and he went to work for Goldman Sachs, probably where he met Carney, and they became buddy. So none of this is helping Canada. None of this is for the benefit of Canada whatsoever. But here's a secret that I'm about to expose. It does help line the pockets of a very specific fund out there. Which one could it be? Well, of course, it's no other than the Brookfield Global Transition Fund 1. You know, the fund where Mark Carney was the managing director and who stands to make hundreds of millions of dollars from his carried interest deal, a commission, a bonus, an actual bonus in the event that the fund performs well. Now, if you look at the portfolio companies held within that fund, we have Entropy Inc., a company that specializes in carbon capture. We also have Carbon TerraVault JV, another company that focuses this time on carbon storage. And you cannot have carbon capture without carbon storage. You capture the carbon from the drilling, the natural gas and whatnot, and then you have to store it to prevent it from going to the atmosphere. So two of Brookfield Global Transition Fund's portfolio company work directly in the failed industry that has no use case, but that Mark Carney is ramming down our throat at the expense of everyday Canadian and the economy in order for him to make millions of dollars. But don't worry, Mark Carney has no conflicts of interest, right? Because everything's in a blind trust.
Yesterday, the stock market took a pretty good jump on news that the shutdown might come to an end. A lot of people did very well in the stock market, I assume, and I assume that you probably were one of them, and good for you.
That would be an incorrect assumption because I had to sell all my stocks to become Treasury Secretary.
You sold them all?
Had
Really?
to, yes.
But you have a blind trust, I would imagine.
There's no such thing as a blind trust.
Okay, thanks. Thanks for straightening me out.
Well, according to the US Secretary of Treasury, there's no such thing as a blind trust. It's not that they don't exist. They do. But let's be honest, they're not blind, and you know what's in there. And the people who manage it, you choose it. And who's to say you don't, have a little chat over a drink, over a coffee? Heck, by proxy if you really want to be secretive about it. Come on. At least the US has integrity. At least the Secretary of the Treasury has integrity. He sold everything. And you know what? You want to go into politics, divest from your assets. You represent the people now. Make sure there's no conflicts of interest. We suck at that in Canada. We suck so badly. But what irks me so deeply is that they consistently use real people's pain and suffering in order to mask, in order to put a front in front of their ideas, to ram it down our throats.
This investment in vacant homes, effectively, that we are pursuing with BC is another tool that we're looking at. There'll be more details to come, but in a time like this where we have record levels of homelessness, we have people that can't access affordable rental apartments, and we have empty homes in Vancouver, in Toronto. We need to take action on this and make the most responsible decisions with it. There'll be more details on what that program is in the near term.
You know, while watching this video, I just realized something. Look at Dougie in the back with that little smirk. That's Dougie. He's just there smirking. Looks like a battle toad. But it's good to see that the Minister of Housing, Gregor Robertson, finally admits what we've known now for a while and which we were gaslit into believing we were wrong about. Canada has record levels of homelessness, and that after 11 years of their management. This is in regards to the $3 billion bailout of wealthy developers for condos in Vancouver. So for the first time, both the right and the left finally agree on something.
It has consequences. If you run a small business, if you run a family farm, if you make a mistake, you'll go out of business. You run a large bank, you have to be rescued because you'll have such bigger impacts on the rest of the system. That doesn't make sense. And so there's a variety of things that are being put in place, being designed so that banking can be like any other business. If you succeed, you get rewarded, but if you fail, your institution fails, and the rest of the economy continues to go on.
So you're saying no bailouts?
I'm saying no bailouts. That's the objective. Ending too big to fail.
Yeah, too big to fail is such a business.
I mean, even Carney agrees. 2011 Carney says, if you succeed, you get rewarded. If you fail, your institution fails. No bailouts. But yet 2026 Carney says, here's a small $3 billion bailout because my wealthy developer friends who speculated on shoebox condos are here losing money. They need to be rescued. But don't worry. We'll pass it off as we're trying to help homeless people. Come on, you know exactly what's going to happen. These are going to be pawned off, and they're not going to go to the homeless because the homeless can't afford it. And you don't want to tackle homelessness. You just want to give government money, taxpayer money, to your freaking wealthy donors in order for them not to lose money. It's the good old privatized profits, but socialized losses, because these wealthy developers were making record profits over the last few years, and I don't recall them, kindly giving their money to the rest of Canada. However, the second their speculative bubble bursts and they make a mistake, well, we can't stand to lose money. That would be bad. This is a textbook example of what power does to someone. Without power, Carney thought exactly like you, me, like the right and the left. We're both unanimous. Both sides of the spectrum are unanimous. This is a horrible idea. We shouldn't be bailing out failed businesses. But with power, he now thinks like the big banks that he was the first to attack 15 years ago. The true character of a man really comes out whenever you give him money, power, or fame. And now, well, we see Carney's character. Oh, and it's not just because he's helping his wealthy buddies, because here's another secret I'm going to expose for you today. He benefits from it once again personally, because one of those wealthy development companies that are about to get bailed out is called Concord Pacific. Now, would it come as a shock to you, as a surprise to you, if I told you that Brookfield Asset Management is affiliated in a 50-50 joint venture with Concert Properties? It's right in our faces. Oh, and there's another loose tie in this entire ordeal, Westbank Corporation, which Brookfield has stepped in as a major buyer and financial player involving some of their most prominent luxury assets. Now, I'm totally speculating, I cannot say that this deal affects Westbank Corp. However, there is another tie. So instead of focusing on helping Canada by making a deal with the US, he's out there bailing out himself directly and his buddies. But don't worry, the US ambassador to Canada, Pete Hoekstra, is there to explain to us exactly what's happening.
Pleasure to welcome you back to our studio. Thank you very much for making the time.
It's good to be back.
We are not far away from a very significant deadline when it comes to the trade agreement between Canada, the United States, and Mexico. Do you, sir, have a gut feeling as to what will happen on July 1st?
I don't think, obviously, we're not anywhere close to announcing any type of a framework or an interim agreement. I really think it's in the hands now on our side. It's going to be the president, and I'm assuming on the Canadian side it will be the prime minister to determine what the next steps are and directionally where we're headed. Well, I mean, we were very willing. We were actually kind of excited about the deal that we had in October, where we covered 5 critical areas. We covered oil, we covered uranium, auto parts, steel, and aluminum. That's a pretty good deal. We were excited about that. The president was excited about it. I was in the October 7 meeting at the White House where, the president and his team and Prime Minister Carney and his team, reached an agreement fairly quickly at 30,000 feet. This is what we're going to do. This is what we want to do on steel. This is what we want to do on oil. And that would have been awesome. It really would have put the following 7 months on very, very solid footing and say, okay, now let's start filling in the other parts. But as we all know, that didn't happen.
Yep, that didn't happen. Why didn't that happen? I don't know. Ask Dougie over there, the Battletoad. Buying an ad in a foreign country, attacking said foreign country, probably does not help make a trade agreement. After having met the U.S. ambassador to Canada, one thing became clear to me. The biggest irritant to the trade negotiation between Canada and the US is not even the details of the deal. It's the fact that Canada is posturing as this super anti-American thing. It is majorly disrespectful. You don't want to make a deal with someone who just disrespects you left and right. So we need to stop. We need to stop this anti-American thing. And by the way, we have to put the alcohol back on the shelves. I'll tell you right now, that's another big irritant. It's around like $500 million a year to the Americans. It's not the economic aspect that they have an issue with. It's, again, the messaging, the respect angle of it. And I even heard, look, again, I cannot confirm this, but from what I've heard, he said, hey, tariff it. We don't care. Even tariff the alcohol. We just want it back on the shelf as a goodwill gesture because you took the step to remove things to boycott us. The Americans are not boycotting Canada in any way, shape, or form. At all. And before you come at me with, well, they put tariffs on the world. It was part of foreign policy from the new president coming in, and they tariffed the entire world. The entire world came together, made deals, individual deals with the US, except for 2 countries. 2 countries retaliated, China and Canada. And even China eventually came to a deal. All that's left now is Canada. Why? Why do we hate the US so much? It's not organic. It's not natural. This is brand new, and it's perpetuated by the mainstream media. And after having met some of them behind closed doors, the big political figures of the mainstream media, I can tell you they have the anti-American sentiment and they're more than happy to push it down our throats. And sadly, some people believe it. A lot of people believe it. But we better hurry up because the Canadian dollar is not doing good. The Canadian dollar has lost 30% of its value versus the United States dollar since the Great Recession. It is getting hammered, destroyed. And this hurts everything because we do import a lot of things from the international markets, and that's all traded in what? In USD. Our energy needs to be imported because we don't have energy independence. We could have it, but we don't. So that's one of the reasons the gas prices are still high. Even though the Iran deal is there and the prices have gone down globally. I think it's like in the $70 a barrel right now internationally, oil, and yet our prices are still high. Why? Because we're buying it in USD and our dollar is buying nothing. It's buying nothing because our economy is shot. So how about we make a deal so that we can start getting a bit of growth in this country? So everyone must have heard by now about the shooting that happened in Montreal 2 days ago, where one police officer sadly lost their life. One innocent bystander was caught in the crossfire and seems to have been also lost his life due to the actions of one of the responding police officer. And well, the perpetrator also lost her life. Now, with a little bit more details coming out, I wanted to touch on it, and I'm still reserving a lot of my thoughts for when all the details come out. But one person who is definitely not reserving any thoughts is, well, our politicians. Because never let a tragedy go to waste.
We have to fight back against people's ability to own guns and use them in the streets in this manner. Just the question of handguns, for example, at the federal level, and Anthony can give his view on this. We have worked very, very hard on gun ownership and what to do about the people who are allowed to have guns, whether you're a hunter or engage in other activities. But we don't believe that there's any room for people to use guns in a city like Montreal.
Are we understanding you're making the call for stricter gun control in Canada?
I mean, absolutely. I think even people from that live through Polytechnique will tell you that I think we can go further. And I know it's difficult because guns sometimes are not only, or in many areas, are for hunting, for indigenous communities. But in a city like Montreal, we need to have a better control on what's happening in the streets in terms of gun control.
Yep, let's politicize all tragedies. Use it to pass your agenda. By the way, this is the mayor of Montreal, who used to be a former liberal at the federal level, may I add. These people are shameless, and their playbook is obvious. Let me tell you something, Soraya. Offing people is already illegal. It is the most heinous crime out there, and it is already criminalized to the highest degree. Are moral laws going to stop these crazy lunatics from carrying out their crazy agenda? Or are you just going after regular folks in a knee-jerk reaction? See, guns off people, let's ban all the guns. Alcohol is bad, let's ban the alcohol. Smoking is bad, let's ban tobacco. Free speech is dangerous, it's time to ban free speech, or at least regulate it. Rich people are bad, well, we cannot have trillionaires. How do we hate them more? This is not what freedom is supposed to look like. I'm a legal firearm owner, and access to firearms is not the problem. When I lived in Florida, I lived in Sarasota County. Sarasota County has one of the highest rates of concealed carry weapons licenses per capita in the entire state. Sarasota County also has one of the lowest violent crime rate in the entire state. Switzerland, one of the richest countries in the world with one of the lowest violent crime rate in the world, has every single male citizen over the age of 20 all the way to the age of 45 mandated by law to keep their military service rifle after their active 2 years of duty at their home, at their residence, at their dwelling. That's right. Switzerland considers everyone between the age of 20 to 45 to be part of the reserve in their military after being trained for 2 years, and they must, by law, keep their full automatic service rifle with munition at home at all times. Access to gun was never the issue for them. Crime is super low. See, crime is primarily a socio-economic problem, but addressing the causes, the root causes, is damn hard, and it also flies to the face of every liberal policy that have been implemented in Canada for the last decade. So it's easier to follow a knee-jerk reaction and just ban the tools because they make certain individuals that are not educated on the fact feel safer. Their emotions are riled up and they're like, please government, govern me harder, do anything to protect us, instead of actually solving the problem, because that's all we want. We want to solve the problem. We want crime to go down. We want people to feel safe and to be safe. So let's go after that. Because right now, even though our gun laws have never been stricter, we've had thousands of guns being banned. Handguns are banned now. You cannot acquire, transfer, or sell them anymore. They're grandfathered. But yet shootings in Montreal go up. Shootings in Toronto have gone up. Shootings in Winnipeg have gone up. All our major cities are saying major rise in gun-related crime. Well, why is that? Laws are stricter than ever. Is it because they're not going far enough? Well, again, we're not seeing an issue in Switzerland or in Sarasota County. So is that really the issue? And gun control did not stop Charlie Hebdo in France. It sure as hell didn't stop the Bataclan in France. It didn't stop the Bondi Beach shooting in Australia a few months ago. Preventing good, honest people from having access to the means to defend themselves is not the solution. So what can we actually do? Because I come with solutions. First, we have to create an environment where evil is reduced. Wealthy individuals commit less crime due to less desperation. That's a fact. So we need to have a booming economy. It's no surprise that as our economy is shrinking and dwindling, people are feeling the pinch, and it's driving some to do some horrible things. Tight immigration control also prevents individuals of dubious nature from entering the country in the first place to commit crimes. But nothing beats empowering people, turning them from a passive potential victim to an empowered, competent defender. Allows citizens the ability to defend themselves, to face a threat that is more and more prevalent. Pass castle doctrine laws. Pass stand your ground laws. Allow concealed carry weapons licenses. It will come as a shock to some, but it's already in the Criminal Code of Canada. We allow something called ATCs, authorization to carry. It is already in our legal system. But here's the issue. To acquire an authorization to carry, you must demonstrate the following. You must go to the chief armed officer of your province, in Quebec that is the Sûreté du Québec, the SQ or provincial police. You must demonstrate 3 times when there's been an attempt on your life. It has to be documented. So imagine that you need to survive 3 times someone trying to hurt you badly. Then you need to have a letter written by your chief of police of your locality stating that their police services is unable or unwilling to offer you the proper protection. And then 3, you need to take a specific self-defense course. And only after you've met all 3 things can you petition the chief firearm officer for an authorization to carry. Oh, but there's another way. See, the chief firearm officer is empowered to give them to anyone he wants for any reasons. And it's speculated that plenty of high prominent politicians have had ATCs, authorization to carries, issued to them in the past or have them right now. And to tell you just how rare they are, in Ontario, last time I checked this number, that was years ago, but Ontario had a population of like 12 million people. Well, only like 22 individuals had ATCs. So we already recognize that there might be a need. Start giving it to the competent people who've demonstrated durability. Oh, and lastly, you got to train. You got to train. Training is paramount. It is not whatsoever up for debate. You must train. Oh, and before the media deflects the entire thing on the incel movement, here's a journalist that actually read the manifesto of this lunatic. And this is what she had to say about what was written within the 104 pages that he drafted. Montreal shooter was a revolutionary communist. Contrary to reports, Seth Hatfield's manifesto is about taking down capitalism through terrorism, not lashing out against women. So there you have it, folks. Now, if you've enjoyed this report and would like to find a way to get involved with the channel, aside from liking, sharing, subscribing, commenting, sending this video far and wide, if you want to take a step further and help contribute financially, well, I have a Patreon. The link is in the description. Or if you rather just a one-time donation, I also have a PayPal link. It's named the Nutella Fund. I swear to God, it's not going to Nutella. No fatty boom booms here. It's rather in order to help me spend more time doing this full-time in order to get as much research done and holding our government to account as much as possible and to break that CBC-induced coma. So all donations are greatly appreciated. I am independent after all. Now, if you haven't seen Carney's hot mic moment from a couple days ago where he admits exactly what he thinks of our entire democracy and how little regard he has for the people who serve our country, well, you got to click on this link right here. I made a video about it. It's mind-blowing. God. You know, when someone tells you who they are, you best believe it. But for the time being, my name is Ali Degno. And by the way, this is June 24th. Bonne Saint-Jean-Baptiste à tous les Québécois et Québécoises. For those who speak English, I'm just wishing happy St. John Baptist. It's our national holiday here in Quebec. It's like the holiest of days, to the point where everything is closed. And if you're forced to work, it's double time, not time and a half. But happy St. Jean to everyone. Have yourself a wonderful day.